Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 252 of the Wannabe Clutter-Free podcast. Today, we are diving into a topic that I know so many of us struggle with. It's our photo clutter. Whether it's the old print photos taking up space in the back of a closet, the thousands of digital pictures scattered across devices, or the ones that we are snapping every day, it is easy to feel overwhelmed by all the memories that we are trying to hold on to. That is why I am so excited to be chatting with today's guest, Krista Kowalczyk. Krista has spent over 25 years as the owner of Impressions Photography, but after Hurricane Ian ripped through her community, she took on a new mission, helping people protect and organize those precious memories. She's been featured on Good Morning America and ABC World News with David Muir for her incredible work rescuing flood-damaged photographs, and now she's here to help us make sure that our own pictures are safe, organized, and easy to enjoy. We're going to cover how to declutter and organize old prints, what to do with all those scattered digital photos, and how to take control of pictures that we're snapping today without spending hours lost in a sea of files. Plus, Krista is sharing some easy-to-follow strategies to help even the busiest moms keep their memories safe without adding too much more to your to-do list. But before we dive in, I want to say a quick thank you to you for being here. I love connecting with you each week, and if you enjoy this episode, I'd be so grateful if you took a quick second to subscribe, leave a review, or give it a thumbs up, especially on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It helps more people find the show, and it means the world to me. And of course, if you want to contribute to the conversation, you can always find me over on Instagram. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free, or join our private Facebook group, the Wannabe Minimalist Family. All right, let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Krista Kowalczyk. Well, hey, Krista, welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free. How you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to get to chat with you today. You were part of the Chaos to Calm Summit in January, but I hadn't really gotten a chance to sit down with you and chat. And so I'm really excited for today because first off, everyone loved your presentation. It was wonderful. So much benefit there. And I just want to know more about you and how you help people with their photos. So can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I do want to tell you the Chaos to Calm Summit was just amazing. So thank you for having me. It was just as much educational for me to hear the other speakers as fun as it was to share my presentation. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me today. So yeah, about me. So I'm a lifelong photographer and photo lover. For as long as I can remember as a small child, I pretended to be the photographer when I was very little. This is back in the film days, I would sneak my mom's camera away and take pictures, and she'd throw out the film because I would take a full roll of pictures of like my teddy bears. So like photography has been my whole life. And went through high school, was a photographer for the yearbook, all of that, and went to college, got my bachelor's degree in photography, and then did what I loved for the past 25 years. I was a professional photographer, and I still am, photographing weddings and families. I'm in Southwest Florida where we have amazing beach weddings and destination weddings. So I get to go to some gorgeous places to take pictures. And yeah, so that's kind of how my photo journey, and that kind of took me up to Hurricane Ian, which you and I have talked about, was just devastating for my area. Hurricane Ian came here in Southwest Florida and just destroyed so many houses. I think about 5,000 houses were demolished, like just need to be destroyed. And it was the flood water. And as you know, flood water and photos do not go hand in hand. So I just jumped in as a professional photographer with a bachelor's degree in photography. I know what you need to do to try to salvage photos. So I just jumped in and started helping people to try to salvage those photos. Like I said, this is about 2.5 years ago now that this happened. But since then, that just started me on this mission to try to help everybody, to educate everyone on ways to be proactive and not let that happen to you. So here I am today talking about photo organizing.
I love it. So that is the catalyst. That is what made you shift from taking the photos to helping people organize and preserve them. I wasn't quite sure of that was the switch.
Yeah. No, and I absolutely love photography. And I love photos. I love taking my own personal pictures. I've got a cell phone full of pictures myself. So I'm like a true photo lover. So it really is a natural thing for me to want to help people, but it never occurred to me. And it really wasn't until Hurricane Ian that I realized that so many people just didn't have the simple tools they needed to digitize those old print photos or even back up their phone pictures. Just simple tips that help people. So I just went on this mission to try to get this information to as many people as possible. So I'm posting every day on Instagram and a YouTube channel and all that. And my goal is just to try to inspire everybody to think about how safe are their pictures and taking the steps they need to get those photos backed up safely and organized.
Yeah. Okay. So take me back to that time when you were right after the hurricane, right? And you see, all these were having issues with people not having their photos or the water's coming through. Like, talk me through just what that felt like for people, because I think sometimes we also need a little kick in the butt because our photos are such a big job, right? It's so daunting thinking about oh my gosh, and oh, but that's never going to happen to me. But you never know, it might, right? I mean, earlier this year we had the huge fires up in LA. That's just a couple hours from me. And you've had now in your hometown, you've had these big hurricanes come through. So it could happen to us. So take us back to just that moment and how it felt.
Oh, for sure. Well, first, when Hurricane Ian came, to me, this felt like a once in a lifetime. Nobody else in the world has seen anything like this. This is so unique to our area. It was that devastating. But just since Hurricane Ian, there was the fires in Hawaii, the fires in California, Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, tsunamis on the other side. I have people reaching out to me from the other side of the world who are also experiencing. So it's a lot more prevalent than I think I even realized, because you don't think about it until it's actually you and it's actually your community. You don't even think about it. So I do look at it very differently now. The one thing I'll say is when you are in an experience where you lost your photos, and that could be a natural disaster or your pipes broke. It could be something like that. It's traumatic. And it's more than just your photos. I mean, very rarely is somebody contacting me because an isolated situation happened where just their photos were impacted. It's typically their whole life. So if your pipes break, you need to get contractors in right away in your flooring, but you still have to get the kids to daycare and you have to get to work. And you're balancing all of that, it becomes a traumatic situation. And you really while the photos over and over again, people would tell me they were the most valuable thing they lost or their hardest thing that they lost. They were also in this situation after Hurricane Ian. They didn't have the time to deal with it. So that's where I kind of stepped in and I was just taking things from people just to help them. But so many people that I talked to a year later said to me, we just had to throw them out. We didn't have the time it took to even try to salvage them because there was things coming at us from every direction. So we just to survive was so difficult that the photos, while they were the most important thing they had, the most important loss, they didn't have time to spend 3 days drying them out and washing them and taking these steps. So, I mean, it is important that everybody understands that whether it is a natural disaster or just your pipes broke or a roof leak or whatever the case may be that caused this situation, that it is preventable and it happens to more people than you would think. I guarantee everybody knows somebody who's lost photos. After I started this, I realized at least half of the people, every time I talk to somebody, they have a story of, well, my grandmother used to have these pictures, but she lost them, or we lost photos. And so I think it is just more important and needs to be talked about a lot more. It's just safely backing up your digital photos, safely storing your print photos, because it's a very hard loss and it's a preventable one though.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. Thank you. That's really interesting because that is also the part I didn't really think about myself, right? That yes, everything else in your life is topsy-turvy and just chaotic, and you might just be so overwhelmed. So what peace of mind it can bring to you to say okay, well, at least that is taken care of. That is okay. It would be much easier emotionally to say, the rest of this is just stuff, and I can buy another couch at Crate and Barrel, and I can buy another rug, and I can, my table is fine, whatever. I can get another dining table. But yes, knowing that my photos are already taken care of, so that is just not another weight on your shoulder when everything else is chaotic. Such a great reminder. Okay, so let's start with those print photos, because I think when we think a storm's coming through, our pipes burst, fires come through, we lose these physical old photos, right? So if we look at those, then they're often taking up space in our closets or, just probably overwhelming us in old albums, or we've inherited them from family members. What are some of your favorite ways to tackle the organizing part? And then secondly, the digitizing part?
Sure, sure. Well, first off, I think out of sight, out of mind. So if you're ready to take on this project, I think getting them out of the closet, creating a space, whether it's the dining room table or a corner of the house, put a space where you're collecting all of them. Because even though you might think you have them all in the closet, you then remember you have the cruise ship photos that are in your desk, and you have all of these different print photos in different places. You have, parents, pictures your parents may have given you, all of those different things in different places. So collecting them all into one place would be the first step I suggest. And then trying to get them into a chronological order, even if it's just spreading them out in that space chronologically. Because when you do get to the step where you're going to digitize them, it's easier if they're just in chronological order to begin with. So a rough, I always tell people, don't put too much pressure on yourself, because I have people that will tell me like, oh my gosh, was that my parents' pictures? It was at 1960 or 1961. I don't think it matters. You could call it 1960s and it's fine. But getting them in a rough chronological order as prints would be the next thing. And then this is one thing I'm going to tell you where I'm a little bit different than a traditional photo organizer, and maybe different than you. I think it is a good idea to eliminate some of them, but it's a very personal decision. And I can't tell you what you do and don't eliminate. I have photo organizing friends that have hard, fast rules. Like, you need, if it's like this, you get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And I think that's a great idea. I think we devalue our photos when we have too many. So you do need to get rid of some of them, but you also need to stop and think, like, what is the value of this to me? Because one landscape photo might mean nothing to another person, but if it's the only photo of the field you played in growing up, it might be a very special memory to you. So really kind of coming up with a balance. And for some people and some photo collections, that's getting rid of 90% of the pictures. And for others, it's getting rid of 10% of them. But I think that's the one thing you need to stop and think about and decide what needs to go and start that elimination process. But easy things like duplicates, obviously, get rid of the duplicates and kind of go from there. Things that just don't have value to you, really stop and look at them and think, is this a memory for me? Is this holding a memory that I'm going to want to look back on? Or is this part of my heritage? Is this something I'm going to want to pass down? So I think if it's not one of those two things, probably eliminating it isn't a bad idea.
I love it. Those are some easy questions, though, as well, because yes, I 100% agree. Decluttering for me is very holistic. So it is not just stuff. It is like the stuff is a representation of your life, and how do you want that to continue moving forward, right? So yes, I 100% agree that it's very personal. I actually helped my mom with her photos, and I'm looking forward to inheriting those someday. There's lots of them. So they moved a couple years ago, and I remember being like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and help you at least get rid of the duplicates. Like, no decisions had to be made. I literally just went through them and pulled out duplicates. And what she did with them then was she sent them to whoever was in the photo, right? So then we took the duplicates and we said, okay, here are the duplicates. And then we sorted them by who was in them. And then she sent them off to those families. And it was just kind of a nice, like, hey, here's a gift. If you want them, fantastic. If you already have a copy of these, you don't need to keep them. But it was a way for her to then give them to people that might have actually wanted them. And of course, there were lots of them that were not good, blurry. Like, do you remember, like, I mean, when you had to do this on film and you didn't know if the picture was good, you got it developed and then you got it back. And of course you got duplicates. And of course you got the CD with it later in the 90s. And so now you have all this like extra peripheral stuff, and then just like going like, okay, look, we don't need this blurry photo. And so like there were a few that I was like, you really don't need that photo, Mom. You have this one over here, you know? So there were some moments of like, oh, even with things that were not great photos, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the idea of sending those pictures off to other people, because I think one thing we're not doing with our photos like we used to is like taking the time to enjoy them. Photography has turned into this like almost like I don't know, like a utilitarian thing where we're taking a picture of the shoes we might buy and like the screenshots of things, and that all gets mixed in, that I don't think that we're really stopping to enjoy the value of a photograph as much as maybe we used to. So I think that, like you said, even if they receive the photo, they thought, I already have this, they chuck it. It was like that connection was made. And your mom and that relative or old friend, like that photo was a connector to give them a chance to chat about that memory or whatever. So I love when a photo gets actually enjoyed. I think that's great.
Oh, that's so good. All right, so then let's move on to digital photos because, like you were just saying, like we're taking all these photos now almost as a way to remember things and like put them on our task list. But then we've got them spread across old computers, multiple phones, cloud storage. Holy moly, that can feel very overwhelming. So, what is your preferred way to start gathering and organizing our digital photos then?
For sure. I think the first step with that is, again, the same thing. You're just going to collect them all into one place, because you do probably, people have like an old disk that has pictures and an old memory card, an old phone, an old computer. Collecting that all into one place is, again, I think the best thing. And then look at what you have, the different kinds of media you have. Do you need most things like an old disk? You can buy, computers don't have disks, or they don't have the disk reader anymore. You can just buy an external reader. And when I share that with people, a lot of people don't realize that you could still just get an external reader to plug into any USB port that'll read a disk, that will read an old memory card, a flash drive, any of the things that you have. You can get a reader to read it. So I would then think about what tools you need to be able to view those photos.
Oh, good point. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so then do you also then do those in chronological order like you would do your physical photos and then go through it that way?
Absolutely. The goal would be to have all of your photos, those old print ones, these older digital ones, and the new pictures you're taking, all to live in one place. So I would suggest keeping the same organizing system across all your photos. For me, that I think works the best. By a mile, works the best is in chronological by date. So if it's old photos, maybe it is just called 1960s and all of the pictures live in 1960s, because you might not have many photos from the 1960s. So one folder called 1960s might be fine. When you get into the 2000s, or definitely now, I would have a folder that said 2018. And then within each folder, I have another folder called January of 2018, February of 2018, and I break them up by month within those folders. But I think the overall, when you open up my computer and you look at my photos, you are just going to see all of the years. And for me, I have photos going back to the 1920s from my family. So, but the 20s might have 3 photos in it. It's not a lot, but then it goes forward from there, by 1920s, 1930s. And then when it gets up to 2000, 2001, 2002, and that's my folder system. I think that just works so much better than I've seen some people try to organize by person or by event. And that just there's so many confusing aspects to that. So with the old flash drives and memory cards and all of that, you're just going to put them into that same system where you're putting them into your computer by year, and ideally in the same exact place as where the old print photos that you've scanned, where they would be living too.
Okay. So let's talk real quick about those systems. Do you generally, like, I know I have a Mac, so it comes with, it's just called Photos now. It used to be iPhoto. It's gone through a few iterations over time. So that's what I use for my photos. Is that what you would recommend for somebody who has a Mac and kind of in the Mac ecosystem? What about for PCs? Or do you recommend that people just have them as the JPEG files and then they're stored more on a hard drive?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of different systems and ways. The iPhotos, there's a system called Forever Photos that's kind of the same thing, that you purchase space, and their selling point is that they keep your photos for, I don't know, 100 years or something. Like, they're not going to move your photos, but you pay for that space, and then it's super easy to organize by folders and stuff. And the same, with iPhotos or Google Photos. I personally like to use the Finder on my Mac and open it up to an external hard drive. And I have one external hard drive that is solely photos. It's my photo external hard drive, and it has all of those folders. I have another external hard drive for my Word documents and all of that stuff. So they stay separate. But on that external hard drive, I'm using the Finder, or, on Windows, use the Windows format. And you just create the folders right there. I think keeping them in the Photos app is good as well, because you do want to have that duplicate space. And the Photos app is essentially iPhotos, like it's connected to your iCloud. I mean, so You've got them backed up to the iCloud, so that's all really safe. It's an easy organizing way. But I will once a month, and I make it, for me, it's the first of every month. I just move all of my photos out. I copy them. So they stay in the Photos app, but I'm copying them over to my external hard drive into that folder for that month. And it's really it's a 2-second thing. If you do it every month, you just open up your app every month, open up your folder every month, and you can slide them over or you can download them and copy them into the folder. But it's really an easy process and just something I suggest everybody does. And in general, the one thing that's kind of, I don't know, a photo organizing myth is that you can do this and be done with it. We're taking photos in a way now that it needs to be a routine. It's like brushing your teeth. You can't do it the first of the month and then be done for the rest of your life. You do it every day. It's a routine. And if people want to continue on taking photos the way that we are and snapping away and having all of these memories, you have to have some steps to make sure that they're safe and be somewhat organized, because I honestly believe that taking too many photos is just as bad as not taking enough, or having too many is just as bad as having not enough. Because you look back to 1940 and you might think, wow, there's only one photo of grandpa. But on the same token, grandpa in 2025, there could be 10,000 photos of grandpa, and they almost become just as valueless when there's too many and a sea of things. I think they're much less apt to be passed down. I think they're more apt to just, your children will get them someday and throw them out. Nobody wants to even try to sift through that mess. So I do think that this needs to be a routine that everybody is in, organizing their photos. It's just something the first of every month that you're backing up those pictures and taking those steps to make sure that your pictures are organized.
I love that. That was actually going to be my next question, is because yes, we're taking so many photos, and I obviously, I remember as a new mom, I took so many photos, and now I'm like, oh, I got to make it a point to take more photos, because we just get so busy in our everyday life that I kind of forget sometimes. But how can we be more intentional about organizing today's pictures so that they don't become digital clutter, so that we don't have so much overwhelm in our everyday life?
For sure. So I'm totally snap happy. I take about 3,000 pictures a month on my phone on average. That's in addition to, I'm at photo shoots 3-4 days a week. So I'm professionally taking thousands of pictures, but my own personal just snapshots is usually about 3,000 pictures a month. I have an app that I use called Daily Delete. And it's super easy. It goes through that time when I took 6 pictures of the same sunset. It uses AI to identify the ones that aren't as good and will help you eliminate them. So I love that app. It's a Mac, or it's an Apple app. For Android, there is Slidebox, and it basically does the same thing. So those are both really great apps for anybody who just needs a little help. But I know with Daily Delete, it's just great because it uses AI to eliminate photos and it learns your preferences. So let's say you take pictures of your children's art, and it might, to their AI technology, might look like something needs to get rid of it. You're like, no, it learns that when it sees children's art, just to keep all of it. So it's kind of neat like that, and that helps get organized. So I do use that to delete some of my pictures. So I'll get rid of some of them that way. It's super, it's literally like a 10-second thing, like do, and you're done. So that's really quick. More importantly though, I favorite my favorite pictures. So I go through and put the heart icon on pictures. And I try to do that, like, honestly, I love my pictures so much that I'll do it sometimes every day, at least once a week. It's usually like I hop in bed at night, I just slide through the pictures I took that day and just tap the heart icon. So that I'm narrowing that 3,000 pictures right away down to, honestly, at the end of the month, it's usually 150 pictures. So a lot of it is just gone with that. And I think that is probably the number one thing, because if you can take all of the pictures you're taking, but narrow it down to 5 or 10% of them, they're much more manageable. They're much more interesting for people to look at. They're more interesting for your children to look at. If, you're passing down photos, you want to have narrowed them down. And the other thing I do that is intended for passing down is I have additional folders I've made that I call my heritage folders. And within that, I do have a couple people's names and special events. And I honestly, there might be 200 pictures in that folder right now. It's not something I do a lot with, but in my mind, these are the pictures that, like, if everything else gets thrown out, make sure this folder stays forever, because there's pictures of my parents as children, my parents' wedding pictures, my wedding picture, baby pictures of my daughter. So there's just a few like of my lifetime favorite pictures ever that I throw into that folder in the make sure this lives on forever folder.
Yeah, the cream of the crop, the ones that you want to make sure, yeah, are actually like these are the ones preserved. And I love that. I love that idea of saying, like, hey, this is the actual special thing. I talk about that when it comes to our stuff, right? Like having these conversations with the people in our lives, our parents, our aunts, uncles, grandparents, that are going to be passing things down to us, and getting those stories and knowing what the actual special things are does make such a big difference. So I love that concept for your photos and having this heritage folder. I haven't heard that before. I love that idea. That's a really fun concept.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely happy I have it and happy that my daughter knows about it. She knows where to find it. So
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. And then I also wanted to let everyone know that we'll make sure we have links in the show notes for those apps that you talked about, so that if people are interested in grabbing those to help them with their daily photo takes, we can help them with that as well. So, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they're organizing their photos, and how can we avoid them?
oh gosh, I think procrastination is just the number one thing, is just not doing it. And sometimes I think being like frozen by perfectionists, wanting to do things perfectly and then not getting it done, I think is the biggest thing. Trying to take on too much at once. I almost look at it like two projects. There's the photos you're taking today forward and everything you took in the past. And what I usually tell people, especially somebody who's overwhelmed, that has a million things going on, is just focus on today. If you start today, you start a routine today, you start favoriting photos, you start backing them up, you once a month, you back them up to your folder system, you do all this. You could go 6 months and then get to the past, but you'll always be organized from today forward if you start those simple routines. You download the app, you do the things to get organized forward. I think that's the best advice I would give anybody who's having a hard time getting started.
That's great advice, because I do think we sometimes forget that all of the things we're doing today are helpful for our future selves, right? So even if, right, if you're taking 3,000 photos a month and you're not organizing those, in 6 months, you're going to have 18,000 more photos. But if you are organizing them, as you said, you're only going to have maybe 1,000 photos going forward. So that's a huge difference. And if you can look at it from that perspective of like, even if I don't touch what's already there, if I just touch what I'm doing now and going forward, that's going to make a huge, huge difference in how you feel. And then you'll feel like, okay, well, this is manageable. Now, maybe if I go back 1 month at a time, right? And just go back, a little bit and start doing what you're doing now, but maybe you just do one more month in the past. I can see how that would really start to add up and make a big difference for people. So I love that. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. All right. So for the mom that is here today and she's like, okay, I got it. I don't take 3,000 photos a month. I don't feel super overwhelmed by my photos today, but I do feel overwhelmed by, this idea of organizing decades of old photos and getting them out and collecting them all in one place. What is one small manageable step that she can take today to feel like she's back in control and actually can tackle this thing?
I think it is a project you can break down into smaller bits. I personally like the idea of pull it all out, tackle it all, don't leave it hidden in the closet. But that being said, it is, once you pull all of those boxes out, it's a multiple day project. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think it could be broken into smaller bits for sure, and look at it. But I would try to organize by decade or time. Like, say I'm just going to pull out just my parents' old photo, or just this one section of pictures, and go from there. There really are some fabulous scanners for getting photos scanned very quickly. And there's the Epson Fast Photo, which is a scanner that can scan, I think it does like 30 to 50 photos per minute. So you just put your photos in, do. So like if you have one of those old envelopes of photos, or if your parents had those old envelopes, you could pull them out, stick them in the scanner, and go right through them. So you can get it digitized fast. It's the going through all of them and organizing them that's the more time consuming thing. For me personally, just because of my experience with the hurricane and what I saw, I feel like if it came down to it and you just don't have the time to sort through all of them right now, just pull them out, just digitize all of them right now, and then sort later when you have time. But I do think, well, this isn't the best organizing advice, but I personally believe my number one mission is to make sure your photos are safe. And then number two is that they're neatly organized. So I think it's just a time bomb if you have photos in a closet, you have photos stored in random places. And also just thinking about where you have them stored, making sure that they are at least in your house. They can't be in the garage, they can't be in the attic, not in the shed. I'm actually helping a lady whose photos were destroyed in a shed, and we're trying to save those. But yeah, the number one rule is just make sure they're living at least in a safe conditions, in climate controlled conditions. But yeah, I think that getting a scanner that you can zip through them really fast and getting those digital copies might just be the way to go. And I will also share too, I do talk to some people that are retirees that are downsizing and stuff. Sometimes people just don't even want to keep those photos anymore. Scan them and throw out the photo. If you really want to declutter, if you're short on space, something that's not necessarily a family heirloom, maybe old vacation photos or pictures with the Easter Bunny or whatever, maybe just get that digital copy and then just eliminate the photos altogether. Because once you have the digital copy, if you do safely back it up, you still have the memory of it.
Right. And the point of it being digitized is you could always reprint it if you wanted to. If you decide like, oh, I really want to make a beautiful collage like you have behind you. I have these photos and I can print them out and I can do something fun with them, or I can send them on. So yeah, I love that. And you know what? I think that is a good point to make, that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It doesn't have to be organized in order for them to be safe. So the first priority to you, and which makes perfect sense, is making them safe so that if the unfortunate happens, and it can happen to anyone at any time, and we have seen it, like you just said, like you ran through 6 big disasters that have happened in the last 2 years that are affecting thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and their photos. And so I think if we can put into people the fire to get them digitized, get them safe, the organization can come later. If you have the time, yes, it's going to be easier on you while you have them physically in front of you to spread them out and get them organized at least by decade. But if that's too much, just getting them at least backed up, and then also back them up and then spend the time organizing them. And then you can do it again, especially if you have this fast printer and it runs through the photos so quickly. Why couldn't you do that? I know it seems like more work, but it might be easier than looking at every photo and having to put a date on it and reorganizing it that way. So you could always do it more than once.
Absolutely. Yeah, lots of possibilities for sure.
So many possibilities. All right, fantastic. Well, lastly, before we go, I want to know, you have a new book coming out called Beyond the Storm. Can you tell us about it, and what will readers learn in that book?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it comes out June 3rd. It's a publisher in New York. It's distributed by Simon & Schuster. So I'm hoping it ends up in a lot of bookstores. But it's really just, it's half memoir, half a how-to tutorial on digitizing your photos and organizing your digital photos as well. I just really documented my time and some of the just crazy, insane, and sometimes horrific things I saw after Hurricane Ian. And I told the stories of the people that I was helping, just what they went through and what that experience was like for them. But with each story I told, and with each person that I helped, I also shared the story of how you could avoid what they went through. So whether it was slides they lost, or photos and albums, or a computer of digital pictures, I shared the different tips I have for how you could prevent your photos from ever being in that same situation. So I like to think of it as half inspiration, half the tools you need to get that job done.
Oh, I love it. Well, if you liked this episode, you're going to love that book. So make sure you check it out. When does the pre-order come out?
Pre-orders are available now. And yeah, I'll send you the link for that. I also have a course that's coming out now too on digitizing photos. So kind of a follow-up to the book. I can send you information on that as well. But I do videos and I walk through the different types of scanners you can get, even using your phone and a phone app, and ways you can digitize old print photos. So I'm excited for that too. But I'll send you those links.
Yes, please do. We'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. Well, Krista, where can people find you?
Instagram is my home. I love Instagram. I'm the.krista.k on Instagram, but I'm also online on my website. You can find all of my channels, but it's thekristak.com.
Love it. Okay, fantastic. And then my favorite way to end every episode is with 3 rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what does clutter-free mean to you?
Clutter-free photos means that your pictures will live on and your legacy will live on, and you will be part of your heritage through your photos.
Oh, I love that. All right. Number 2, what is making you happy right now or in this season of life?
Ooh, I love travel and boating. Probably my 2 things I do the most for fun.
That makes sense. Where's your favorite place you've been?
I just was in Poland, one of them. Yeah, I do have a bunch. I was just in Poland 2 weeks ago. It was my second time there. I think it's like the most underrated destination. Everybody needs to go to Poland. So I love that.
I saw your post about the person that looked like they were related to you. And I was like, that was blown away. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I was stopped. I lost my tour group. I lost my tour group because they left. They walked ahead of me. And I was just like in shock looking at this photo that I had found. I was just like, what in the world?
Yeah. Crazy. All right. So everyone check that out. Go look back. About timeline.
Oh, on my Instagram. Yeah, it was just maybe a week ago around, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a beautiful post. So, okay, so like early March. So go check back to early March and look for that photo and check it out. It's an amazing story. All right, I know this is supposed to be quick. Sorry. Number 3, what is a goal you have for yourself this year?
You know what? I want to dive more into the AI technology that's coming out and becoming more available to get photo organized. There's just new stuff coming out every day, and I think this whole conversation is going to be obsolete in a couple of years. I think that ways to get your photos organized is going to become so much easier. We're just going to need to learn some new tools. So I am staying on top of those tools. I'm making that a priority this year.
That's fantastic. Oh, I love that. I think AI has a lot of good things it can do for us. So I am also excited to see how we can enjoy the good of it before I'm sure it goes to hell. Just like the internet.
Hopefully all good. It's going to be all good.
You are an optimist. I've got my fingers crossed over here. All right. Fantastic, Krista. Well, you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Wow. I mean, what an eye-opening conversation with Krista. I don't know about you, but I am feeling so motivated to go back through my own photos, both the old prints that I do have in a box and the thousands of digital photos that I have. And I even have a course on this stuff where I talk about decluttering and organizing your photos. So that just speaks to how much Krista makes this seem doable and exciting to actually take care of and tackle on a regular basis. And remember, you can get the show notes for today along with all those links that we mentioned by going to wannabeclutterfree.com/252. But now I would love to hear from you. What part of this episode resonated with you the most? Are you inspired to sort through your old albums, finally create that digital backup, or maybe just be more intentional about the photos that you are taking moving forward? Still be snap happy, but maybe make sure you curate them at the end of the day or week. Let me know what you are most excited about. Let's keep this conversation going. Come chat with me over on Instagram. I am at WannabeClutterFree. Feel free to send me a DM, comment on this latest post, or even share this episode and tag me. I love hearing your takeaways. And of course, if you want to dive deeper into decluttering and simplifying, come join our private Wannabe Minimalist Family Facebook group. It is a great space to get support, ask questions, and share your wins, big or small. And as always, thank you so much for making this podcast part of your weekly routine. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love if you could subscribe, leave a quick rating, or drop a review, especially on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It's such an easy way to support the show, and it truly means the world to me. And with that, I hope you have an amazing day. Remember, small steps add up. So whether you take 5 minutes to delete some blurry photos or finally dig into that box of old prints, you are making progress. I believe in you, and I know you can do anything you put your mind to. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.